Starting with every time is win conditions. I think that it's really important to understand your win conditions. Every team's slightly different, and whenever you kind of rehearse this, you begin to understand what more team comps want to do, which means you can better understand how to play against it and how to set up for your own team comp. So even though I'm not always right with what I say here, it helps provide an example of what you should be thinking and what you should be trying to set up for the entire game. So for your team, you have an incredibly strong team fight with a very good front line and a lot of back line. Between the Vel'Koz with your AP damage, the Sejuani with AP damage, and the Tristana for the AD and the Ashe for the AD, you have a ton of damage and you have a ton of tank and you have a ton of shred. Now your problem with this team comp is actually going to be your laning phase. Your laning phase with Ashe is probably not going to be that good into a Gnar, and it's not going to be bad either. It's just not going to have a lot of pressure. Um, your mid lane is Vel'Koz is pretty much just a wave clearing champion, and this is actually just a wave clearing champion. So that's probably just going to be a stalemate. And Tristana could go either way. She has a pretty strong early and then a weak kind of mid game, and then amps up again late game. That lane is a bit stronger in this meta, though, in my opinion, the Jhin and the Thresh. So what does this mean that I would be trying to do? Well, I want to get the Ashe out of laning phase as soon as possible. So in order to do that, I would be trying to get this turret early. There's not a whole lot you can do as Braum or Tristana to try and set up for this, except for not requiring the jungler to be bottom. And you can also do your best to track the enemy jungler. So whenever I was talking to you about previous reviews about how you can follow the timers of where the enemy jungler is, not only should you follow timers, but whenever you're only duo queue with like one person, you should ping them out and start typing jungler is probably topside. And if you see him start pinging, okay, I'm trying to ping, but that just swaps vision. Start pinging fall back if you expect them to be top lane. That way your laner will at least play a bit safer and mean it will promote smarter play. If you start to understand something and your team doesn't see it, a lot of the times people can climb without knowing all of the nuances of the game, because I don't fucking know all the nuances of the game. And, I still make mistakes and stuff. So you should try and do your best to call out things and help your team. During your laning phase, your level 1 is probably a bit stronger than theirs with the Braum stun. Your level 2 is probably weaker with their combo and the Tristana's really high cooldowns, because they can probably bait out her bomb without actually going in. I don't think you'll be able to stun with the Braum Q. I really don't think you're going to get that stun off level 2. Because Tristana should get jump level 2. You want to have your utility, and the jump doesn't really help with getting the stacks off. So level 1, I'd be trying to play a little bit aggressive, and if you get level 2 first, you can kind of remove her weaker level 2 in my mind. Because if you get it first, it doesn't matter. It's level 1 versus level 2. Okay, you're giving way too much respect here as Braum. Uh, part of this early, right? You get here and you pop right away. There's nothing wrong with popping right away, but then you start backing off. Okay, actually Tristana used her shit here. Maybe that's why you back off. That actually would be really smart to back off, because you would not want to trade now. I didn't see her use that. Okay, this is giving a lot of space. This is a problem where you're standing. Whenever you're looking to stand over here, you're not in a position to trade back most of the time. And it's because if they wanted to, they could get bush control over here and be playing onto the Tristana while you're on the other side and can't retaliate. Once you get your jump, you're more in range to do something like that. But right now, you're standing way too far away from the Tristana. You should be trying to get brush control, so that way you force them back. And your level 1 with the stun should be stronger. So if you're watching Tristana's cooldowns, you should be able to play up a little bit more. And watching Jhin's fourth shot, of course. You don't want to just eat that. But really, you do need to be playing towards the same side of the map as your AD carry. Whenever you separate like this, you give them the possibility of getting free trades off. Whenever I am an AD carry and I'm laning, this is exactly what I look for to go in on a Tristana. This is exactly what I would look for. You don't even need cooldowns. This is another mechanic. The space that you're so far away that I could be still behind minions over here, so you couldn't get a Q on me and auto the Tristana. And brush control is very important. So since you're way up here, you're playing towards the top side, you're giving way too much respect early. This is what you want to do. But now it's almost too late because they're going to beat you. See? They have three, you have three rather, to kill, and they only have 1.5. So now you kind of lost the possibility or the option to control these bushes because they're going to outlevel you. See? Now you just have to back off. And you got lucky there. They should have been able to just zone you out of that shit. Okay, well, I don't know why they let you step up like that. Interesting. Okay, well, let's see what happened here, because I don't know if that was a good play by you or a bad play by them. So this play starts with Thresh missing his hook. So that's a very... And then Jin's fourth shot. This is actually a really smart time to be looking to trade back damage, and the Tristana seems to know that, and that's why she goes for that auto. You know that they have Flay, and he should be flaying you away right here. I don't know why he's not. Yeah, the Thresh misplayed this fight. He flays you in? Okay. Well, you played this right knowing where your window of advantage was. You should not have gotten a kill here because the Thresh should have flayed you away and it should have been over with just that flay. But you were good to watch those cooldowns. Those are two very important cooldowns. Hook was down and the Jin's fourth shot was down. So you did that really nicely. If you're watching the timer, you know that the jungler should not be bottom anytime soon, so it's a good idea to try and push this out. I would ask the Tristana to use her abilities, and you know you have your Targon stack. You could probably pop one of these. You need to be pushing this fast. Oh. So you probably were worried about the Morgana. I was expecting her to just stay mid. Yeah, I wouldn't have expected the Morgana here. Even though she went missing, that just didn't make sense. Hmm. Yeah, I guess it was a pretty solid roam. I would not have had a ward here normally. I would be expecting the jungler to be top. That's kind of just like a pressure thing. Like, your mid apparently was just letting it wave clear towards them, so the Morgana should not have been in a position to do that at this point in the game. I like how you got a pink ward. I like how you got potions. Very important buys. There's not a whole lot you can really do to help a Tristana CS. It's really hard because of the explosion. You do a pretty good job with using your Targon stacks. I would have hit the melee minion over here with your Targons. Because if you're watching, you know you need to use your Targons for these because they're just ruined otherwise. Yeah. You probably would have had to, you probably would have missed the same amount had you used them earlier. According to the timer, the jungler should be bottom. So I would be playing this really safe. You just see her top, though. This is a pointless ward. If you're duo with this guy, then no, you do not need to ward this. You just saw the Shyvana top, which means you're not watching the map. This ward is only if you're expecting a roam from over here. And if you were watching earlier, the Morgana wave cleared, right? But she didn't disappear like this. You know, whenever you're going up to ward, she has no reason to be roaming down like that. Yeah, there's no reason to have this ward here right now. You spotted out the Shyvana, and this is going to be pushing really quickly. See, you even spot her now. She's still in lane. This is a really worthless ward, because now you can't use it for lane control, and you can't use it for whenever the jungler finishes clearing top and put it in the river. So really be more careful with this ward. This is a wasted resource. This is a really aggressive play right here. I know that you know the Tristana, or not Tristana, the Shyvana was top lane. Maybe that's why you were going to do that? Because summoner spell-wise, you're in the same boat, except for slightly worse off because neither of you have flash. Item-wise, you're not huge. And now the Thresh chooses to flay away. I don't. But the Thresh still had his whole kit, so there was no way you were going to actually get a kill there, and it could have potentially gotten turned on you. You really need to be looking for when you have windows to trade. That was not really a window to trade. Not with Braum. This is okay. You were in a really good position to be doing this because of where your wave control was. Tristana needs to be autoing the Thresh over the wall for the start of that fight. And you guys need to be kiting around to try and stay out of the range of the Jhin. Braum moving back is really good. But you grouped up too much. Alright, let's watch this. I'm going to watch this first for what I would have done as Braum, then I'm going to watch it again for what I would have done as Tristana. So for the start of this play, you see this Sejuani is kind of running around, and you just catch the Shyvana out trying to do dragon. It looked like you were trying to do dragon yourself here, because there wasn't really a reason to roam up that early. Were you going to ward? Because this is weird. Because the Tristana, you were roaming up almost before you saw the Shyvana. Interesting. Do you have... Maybe you were going to ward. If you were going to ward, that was a pretty good time to go and ward. So I'm going to watch this, I guess, first as the Tristana, and then I'm going to watch again as Braum. This start of this is really good. You move first. That's always really important. Right here, you should stay over the wall because you have your jump, and you should be attacking the Thresh. If you can force them to go away, you can stall out this fight so that way the Vel'Koz can make it over. Right now, you do not want this all in because of health. Right now, you want to stall this fight. And you can stall this fight by making it so that way they have to choose whether or not they want to take damage from you or they want to back off, right? But with the way that you played the start of this, not even very long ago, right? It was... You start moving to attack the Jhin, and you start moving to go back to the choke. When you move to the choke, that's part of the reason the Morgana was able to get off her ultimate. But right here, that was your window to attack and stun the Thresh. I know what you're thinking. You want to get on the Jhin, and you force him away. But since the stun was on the Thresh, you could have got out a lot of damage onto the Thresh before he was even able to move. Now you're walking way too close. This is a positioning thing. You really did not want to get that close. There was no reason to chase that deep. Targeting here is pretty good. You no longer care about the Thresh to be looking up to the Jhin. That's what you would want to do. I would jump. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I probably would have died here too. Because he got a heal from the Not the new Dangerous game. I think that's what happened. Yeah. The biggest thing here was a lot of positioning mistakes. Yeah, he healed up 70 from that. And I'm not going to say that your positioning would have won you the fight, but it would have helped. Okay. Now I'm going to watch it again for the Braum. So as Braum, your biggest focus should be trying to get your passive out on everyone. I think that that's one of the most important things you could be doing. And again, kiting it out. You don't want to get this fight on straight on because of your health bars. The Sejuani can't. And you're already at like a numbers disadvantage because of that. She's basically dead weight here. She's only going to be CC once, and then she's going to die. So you get flayed away, and you're walking away from your team here instead of kiting to them. So you're the one who chooses this fight when you could be kiting back and letting the stuns take place. You need your team to set up those stuns. And then whenever you jump to your team, it's too late and you give the Morgana the ult. I actually would have jumped here as Tristana. Maybe even further this way. To make sure I didn't get stunned by the Morgana. And yeah, so you were going too deep and picking that fight. It means you need to reassess fights and reassess what could happen. So like the Vel'Koz did come over, but he was late. All you needed to do was kite out this fight for a little bit longer, use your stuns, use your teammates to proc those stuns, and you would have been able to potentially turn this fight. But instead, 3 for 1. This is actually going a lot better than I thought. The top lane matchup. And Dragon. 3 for 1 and Dragon. You got your some heal back, and they got their heal back. Your flash is almost up. Theirs is down. So here you would know the Shyvana's top side, because, yeah, you just see her, but you should have known anyways. Getting this ward out, not really necessary right now. I think that I would be looking to try and go in on the Jhin there instead. So you try and get this ward out. And you need to, again, kind of reassess what wards do, right? Wards tell you where the enemy team is. That's the point, right? To set up for plays and know where the enemy team is. You already know where the Morgana is. You just saw the Shyvana, and you know the Shyvana is going to be up here for another minute. So again, this is a wasted resource and wasted time. Because you do force the Thresh a little bit away, you know, by walking up towards him. And maybe... Oh, he just swept that? Okay, interesting. But in this window, you could have potentially pushed this all the way to the tower and gotten turret damage. You could force the Jhin away by just being a threat. You guys are not behind in this lane. Right now, I would say you're pretty much even with your potential stun. And you can turn onto them really easily if they're separated. This is what you look for. Okay, going on the Thresh here is fine. Make sure you get your passive on the Jhin. You need your passive on the Jhin. Alright. You need to turn onto the Jhin. You need to turn on the Jhin a lot sooner. The biggest thing supports offer is their crowd control. You know, their utility. They're not for damage. And once they use their crowd control, they are worthless. The Thresh already used his shit, and look, the Jhin's still able to do shit. Now you guys are forced out of lane. Or you should be. And he basically is able to get an even trade because he's able to pick up this wave and probably get another wave while you guys recall. If you had gone onto the Jhin whenever the passive was on Jhin, you would have been able to free push this. Okay. This is a pretty risky stay. You don't have heal, but you do have ignite. Maybe that's why. You could try something. Flash on him with your passive. If the oh, but Tristana has no mana. Okay. Okay. That ended up working out pretty well. I still would have preferred to see you go onto the Jhin. You got to rethink what your targeting priorities are, because over here you targeted the Jhin, and over here you targeted the Thresh. So you're not necessarily attacking whoever's closer, because over here you looked for the Jhin, and over here, whenever they were both in range, you looked for the Thresh. So it's not that, it's some other targeting choice that you have. Okay, I gotta watch that. All right. There's no way you're gonna show up for that in time. It's already over. Yeah, okay. You guys aren't assessing whenever something's over. This can only end badly. Okay. You got to know when to show up to fights and when not to. Over here was good. This was a great time to show up. Over here was not. And I know you were following your team's pings. That's probably why you were doing it. So sometimes it's worth following your team's pings, sometimes it's not. Whenever you looked up for this, you were way too late. The Tristana walking up here and even warding for it, there was no reason. The Shyvana had already killed your Sejuani, and there was nothing fucking to get in this side of the jungle. The only thing that they were going to potentially do was dive you, and if they dove you, you had a fucking turret here that you could have turned with your Braum ulti, your Tristana ulti, your stuns, your Ignite. They wouldn't have dove you. So the only reason you warded this is because pure curiosity. This is the second time the Tristana has warded something unnecessarily, and as a whole, you guys have warded 3 things unnecessarily. Positioning, targeting, and resource use of wards. Kill this. This is a good one, actually. This is something that you would want right now, because the Shyvana doesn't have anything in this side of the jungle like to get down here, but she might still have something over here soon. And I would be cautious. I love it! I love it! This is a really risky time to be getting this ward, because you don't know where the Shyvana is, but I'm glad you did this ward. This is my favorite ward for spotting out where the jungler is. Whenever you're bot, this is the best thing you can do for your team, I think. If you have an advantage in lane, like it's pushed to their turret, and you can go do this, it's wonderful. Especially on a farm-heavy jungler like Shyvana. But now, since you have a ward up here, this one becomes pointless. So you got to think about what your wards are already seeing. Like, this one's not going to spot out anything. The one over here is not going to spot out anything, because if they're going to go through the Tri-Brush, they're either going to have to use this Blast Cone, which doesn't exist right now, right? Because it's a Shyvana. She's not going to be able to leap this wall without a Blast Cone. So, okay, that means she's going to probably either go, like, towards the river, which if she goes around towards the river, then, yeah, you guys would kind of be boned. But she wouldn't do that. That's not normal jungle pathing. Because if she's ganking like this, she would rather come through lane with the Thresh Lantern, which means this is not going to help you. You would need it in the Tri-Brush itself. Thresh Lantern is where she would gank in this scenario. This is what she would gank in the other scenario, coming down through blue and then through river, which means this ward would catch her. This is thinking about what the enemy team is capable of. And it's not necessarily saying your wards are bad, because this ward right here, the one that you just put down that's next to the Tri-Brush, as soon as this Blast Cone does spawn, it's going to be fairly useful, because that is a potential window. It's just not the best window. The extra effort of putting it in the Tri-Brush would have helped a lot, because it also would have caught out the Thresh Lantern ganks, which are just as important. Yeah, I would put it in the Tri-Brush and put it up here. Ignore this ward. You don't need the one at the dragon. With just those two and the coverage you have through this, which you put down earlier, oh my god, this is an amazing pink ward. This catches out all mid lane roams, secures if they go into the jungle like this, which means you can catch them going through your jungle for invades or anything else. This is an excellent ward, And this is an excellent ward. This one needs to be moved slightly over, and this one is completely unnecessary. Okay, so that's my rant on your wards. Wards are incredibly important, and it sets up smart fights and prevents stupid fights. That's what they do, which means they are the equivalent of a fifth of your team's gold at all times, because that means you take the numbers advantage fights. It's super important to know where the enemies are. Right now you see the Shyvana topside, which means that it was completely safe to do something like that. At this point, I would be trying to get onto the tower. Tristana should be able to siege this, and the way this lane is going, the Jhin has to purely focus on hitting the minions just to keep the wave up. You do see the Morgana coming down. She catches out your pink ward. Unlucky. But that's what it was there for. This is potential to save your life. Now, of course, the one at the dragon could have saved your life too, but at this point, you see this ward has, how many seconds left? Probably like 20? So, it still can get caught, because that's not going to be there. This is an unnecessary ward again. Oh, I have no idea why you would put one here. If you're trying to catch the Morgana roam out, she's going to get caught on this shit. This is like the fourth unnecessary ward. You should really, really review your warding. And whenever I rant on something, I pick what I think is the easiest things for people to improve on and their most consistent mistakes. So that's the reason I am... Okay, what the fuck? The Shyvana's in the jungle? Okay. So I guess your ward did spot out something pretty important. Because that does prevent you from getting dove. Okay, well, I stand corrected. She should not be in your jungle right now, but since Sejuani is top, I guess that's why. I still would suggest not putting it here, though. That's a rare situation, and it probably won't even affect you as bot lane. It will affect your jungler, as their red is gone now, but it should not affect you as bot lane. You don't know where the Thresh is, you don't know where the Jhin is. Yeah, I would not have bombed that. Ult. Too slow with your ult. Yeah, that was a really risky push. Even without the Shyvana here, this was a really risky push. If you're thinking that they're recalling, you're not watching their resources. Do you think that they have any reason to recall whenever the Jhin is full health and 70% mana? The Thresh was just as healthy. They had no reason to recall here. None at all. None at all. And if they were walking up to Dragon, right? If they were walking up to Dragon, then you can assume that they have 3 people here, right? Because the Shyvana probably is going to be on the Dragon, knowing what their team wants to do. And if that's the case, you don't fucking want to push. You want to respect that there's 3 people there, because they can either do this immediately and come down, which you do see that they just clear Dragon, and then you decide to finish and stay on the wave. This is a terrible decision. Yeah, you definitely deserve to die here. So without any knowledge of where the Shyvana was, under the assumption that this ward was gone, right? You did not have this ward and you were following what I was thinking. I still would have known not to do this, not to go up there, because the Jhin, if he's walking in this direction with full fucking health, you know that they're going to be doing Dragon, which means that you know that Shyvana's here. There's no other reason the Jhin with full health would be walking up like this. If you think he's going mid, then maybe he was doing that, but I think there's like a 5% chance he was doing that. It would make no sense for him to go mid right now. Unless he's just really trying to catch that wave, but he had a wave down bottom to catch too. It just didn't make sense. He was on Dragon. And if you knew he was on Dragon, you knew that meant there were 3 people here, which means you should not have been pushing the wave. And if you decided to push the wave with your bomb, then you better have done that way sooner before you heard the sound effect of Dragon. Because then Whenever you were staying on the wave, after they clear dragon, no shit, they're going to come kill you. And the respect mastery, oof. All right, this is a really good time to push because now they've definitely shopped. This is a good time to push. I like this ward. This ward's not yours, so I like this ward. Come on, just a little further. No reason for you to be down here. So you're not watching where your AD carry is going. There's no reason for you to be in this lane. If you're focusing on warding, right, and that's what you're doing, you're going around providing vision. That means you should be looking at the mini-map. And if you're looking at the mini-map, you know that Tristana's not there. And I know you have this problem because I remember whenever you died knowing to, like, remember this? Remember this from, like, several games ago? Yeah, I remember this. Look at the mini-map. This is a sign that you're not looking at the mini-map because there's no fucking reason for you to be down here. You're not going to be able to CS. They're going to zone you off of it. You're not going to get XP. You should take this window to either siege mid with your Tristana and get this tower, which is pretty low, so you'll get it in one wave. Or, as the Tristana, you should have stayed bottom. Ideally, I probably would have gone mid. This is a pretty reasonable rotation here. And now, see, you had to go mid. You got zoned out of the wave, and you just had to leave and go mid. The ward setup here is excellent. Trying to turn on this fight is a pretty good idea since the Jin's on the other side. See, just think about that, right? To explain again what I was talking about with the importance of being close together in lane. This distance over here, this small separation, right? Think of that as the equivalent of what happened here. Jhin was over the wall and could not return damage for basically that entire fight. Unless you jump over, which probably are going to. But that is the same situation. You let them take those trades onto you if you don't stand too close to your AD carry. That's unlucky. Okay, there you go. That is lucky. This is good positioning. That's exactly what you would want to do as Tristana right there. I think I would have even taken one step further to the left. This is an excellent rotation. See, that was great. That was very well done. You took 2 towers. There's no reason to stay any longer. You've opened up the middle of the map, but you still have a lot to do bot lane, and top lane is very easy tower take at this point, but you're not necessarily needed there. I would be concerned about pushing out bot wave and trying to get this turret. Now that you have free range mid, you should be looking to ward up all throughout their blue side jungle and rotate between mid lane and bottom until 20 minutes comes. Once 20 minutes comes, you then can start focusing top, and then your idea is just to constantly be pushing out this minion wave bottom. If you can create a numbers advantage next to Baron, your team will be able to do it really fast with 2 AD carries and 2 tanks. So I would have stayed for another wave bottom. Recalling there means you had, I guess, a really important item to get, but you also had 7 stacks on your coal, which you could have gotten, the extra 2 waves. You could have potentially even gotten this turret, but you weren't watching the map because you see that these people are all mid. It was super easy to take another wave, and if you're trying to set up a slow push, right? Well, they're responding to this wave right now, which means that this wave is going to be pushing into you, which means that you're going to have to respond up here, and in turn, you're essentially not going to be able to do anything with any of the pressure that you have attempted to set up because you're not predicting what the waves are going to be in the future. This wave is going to be coming into you. Mid-wave is probably going to be stalemate somewhere around here, and they're going to be looking for a fight, which you could easily flank and kill. And bot wave is Probably going to very slowly push out, but you're going to have to. They're going to be able to respond to this because you're going to have to respond top, which means it would have been safe for you to go and take extra waves and create this pressure early. You might have even been able to pull out a TP if you had created this pressure early. But by leaving that wave, it means you weren't watching the minimap. And judging by their word placement, that makes sense. No flame, I'm sorry. I thought that was funny. This is a really bad spot for you to be in. You see where everyone is on the enemy team, and your team is behind you. You have no minions. You should not be on those minions. Back off. Good. You need to keep an eye on your minimap and eye on your teammates as much as you keep an eye on your enemies. I don't think I would be looking up for this. I would be doing exactly what you're doing. Yeah, that's exactly what you wanted to do, because that's not a fight you can take. If you're watching the minimap, you know that your AD carry is here and here. You don't have your team, you can't take this fight. It's a five man. And you see, as Tristana, right, if you were doing what I said earlier, you would already be on this fucking turret. And you would definitely have pulled out a TP because they were rotating between these things. You definitely would have pulled out a TP. And if you pulled out a TP, then maybe they could have taken this fight, because now all of a sudden they would have an even fight if Ashe came over. So yeah, wave management needs work too. Wave management, resources, using wards, positioning, and I forgot the other thing that I said. But your rotations are pretty good. At least the Tristana's rotations are good. Braum, you got to work on it because your rotation was to come bottom again. Oh, and targeting. Yeah, that's the other thing. Targeting. That was good targeting. Good switch over. Nothing to get mid. Rotate bot. Rotate bot. You're not going to be able to siege this. There's no way they can defend the bottom turret. You really shouldn't be able to siege this against the Morgana pool. They should be able to wave clear. Did they just want to give it to you? Is she out of mana? And if you don't get it, it's a waste of time. Because now you're going to lose this objective. Yeah, see? Okay, so your rotations do need work. And while you're rotating bottom, you could have warded the entire blue side jungle, control dragon afterwards, which meant denying Shyvana armor. This would have been a really good rotation. And now you know that they're all fucking going to go to dragon, so now you can't really do anything because you're fucking low, because you tried to siege this. And look, you got it to half health, and that's going to heal back. You got to give it. Okay, you are constantly just ARAMing mid. This is not how you win games as AD carry. As AD carry, you want to be rotating to turrets. You need to be rotating to turrets. That is how you extend your lead as an AD carry, by getting gold to the rest of your team. And I know Ashe is also an AD carry and theoretically should be able to, take this turret by herself, but that's not working out. You need to rotate to these objectives and get this global gold. Global gold snowballs a team's lead. And if you're also rotating to top lane, which is where you should be trying to be right now because Baron's up, you could then look for Baron control. By ARAMing mid, you're just going to stall out the game. You're going to push this wave in there, and they're going to push it back, and then you're going to wait for a fight. And since your gold is even, it's not going to be a smart fight. It's going to just be a fight. So you need to work on your wave management because the pushing bottom. You need to work on your positioning. You need to work on your warding. You need to work on your rotations. You need to work on your targeting. Alright, at this point, vision's kind of dark. I'm looking around the map, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of vision at all. Braum, you have 3 wards on your sightstone, and you want to know where you just were? Drop a ward over here. Your ward was just about to die. Now you don't know what's happening around Baron. You were just on this side of the map, and you're probably going to be headed bottom because you're following your Tristana, right? You're probably headed bottom. You're giving up. You're entirely giving up Baron control, and this is the only window that you're going to be on this side of the map if you're just following the Tristana, who's ARAMing mid. Yeah. This is pretty risky to take. Yeah. And see, if you had set up a ward, you would have seen this. All right, your team set it up. You finally took this turret, rotating up to this. Excellent, good job. You shouldn't have to wait till your Ashe took that, though. You need to be doing that yourself. That's not really a huge deal. That's a small mechanical thing. That's a little bit too much repositioning, I think. Because now you can't auto-attack at all, and they'd already used all of their ranged threat. You just jump out of the Jhin ult and attack the Shyvana. Whenever you kite away like this, you're just waiting to die. You need to be auto-attacking. Yeah, and you jump through the pool. You got to work on your kiting too. Okay. I don't know how Braum played that though. I was just looking at the Tristana. Great peel back, going to save your Tristana. Still peeling back, good. Going towards the Shyvana, you got to go towards... Now shield, going towards this. Perfect, that was actually exactly what you should have done as Braum. Okay. Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. Hmm. Alright, let's see where you go. You're no longer ARAMing mid, are you? You're jungling? Okay. Oh, there we go, mid again. You gotta rethink this, okay? Going bot, or are you just waiting for red? Ugh. And then mid again. You really need to work on your rotations. This is a terrible habit. This is really a terrible habit. I'm not trying to just say this as like I was kind of joke flaming about this, but being very serious, you cannot just always go mid. You need to be rotating to objectives. And I understand that you wanted to probably be around Baron, right? But if you wanted to be around Baron, then the window of time you took to go from to Romp, right, to red buff and back to this, you could have pushed out a wave, gotten red buff, and then been back to this. And if the entire team decided to go to Baron, like their team, and start trying to rush Baron, there's a pretty good chance you could have taken 2 turrets for Baron, and that's not a terrible trade. It's not terrible. I'm not saying it's ideal, but it's not terrible. But it's just giving you an example of what else could have happened. You really cannot just be going mid like this, because if you go mid like this, you're solely relying on outplaying mechanically on the like even fights. You're not setting up to take smart fights where you have a numbers advantage or a skill advantage. The only thing you're looking for is a fight, period. That's what you're looking for. If you start rotating to objectives, you can create numbers advantages and you can create situations where they will definitely lose something. If you rotated bottom earlier and that forced them to either make the decision to go and Baron, which your team could have potentially poked them off of, or forced them to engage, and maybe they take an even trade here. Maybe 3 people on your team die and 2 from the enemy team die. But if the right 2 people from the enemy team die, they can't do Baron anymore. Which means that as Tristana, you could keep pushing down this lane, and all of a sudden they've lost something from not just a fight, but a situation where they had to lose something. Your whole goal while playing League of Legends needs to be setting up situations where you have an advantage or situations that they have to lose something. And if you're just looking for plays where you're going to outplay someone, no offense to you, it happens to me too, but you're not going to win games by just being a better mechanical player. I get outplayed all the fucking time by like gold, silvers, and whatever else. You get you win more games by setting up smart plays that you just it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Because if you make a small mistake in a mechanical play where you have an extra person, you have an extra person to land that extra skill shot, and all of a sudden it doesn't you win anyways. It's like having a gold advantage of 20k at this point in the game if you set up that smart fight. But whenever you're just looking for a fight, you're not doing any of that. You're rolling the dice and hoping that you can set up something before they can set up something with a Morgana Q or a Braum Q or a Thresh Hook or a Sejuani ult or an Ashe Arrow or a Gnar ult. It's just waiting for something to happen. You need to be worried about getting these turrets early so you have that gold advantage and you can make those small mistakes. You need to be worried about setting up these waves so they lose something regardless. Either someone TPs to this or they start Baron and you're able to get this turret and maybe more, and your team can fight them off of this. Whenever you just go mid, you're waiting for a fight. That's not how you win games. Here, though, I would be going mid, because there's a lot of people you can get a pick off, potentially. This is something that could turn into something pretty good. It didn't, but it could have. I would have definitely gone mid there. This is a safe ward take. You just saw two people mid. The Jhin is bottom. I would be trying to get a pink ward over here. Ashe is bottom. Well, Ashe does a lot more damage than I thought. Huh. All you have to do here is stall Baron. I wouldn't even start it. I would stall. If you can either make it, you need to set up a situation where they lose something. And Ashe is going to be pushing bottom, so you just got to wait for this. Yeah, Tristana, you got to watch your positioning here. You set yourself up in a spot where you could have gotten engaged on. That's exactly what you would have wanted to do, though. It's just I would have been a little more careful here. You set up the fight, the bait. This is what you could have done as Tristana, like 5 minutes ago. I would not have been looking for this just yet. I would have continued to bait it, because the Ashe is going to get something regardless. Now you're all very low with reduced armor. Yep. And of course they can't do it now because they're really low, but now you see they can just TP over this without losing anything. Oh, and are they actually going to try this? Yeah, they try it, but they don't get it. I see the map. If the Gnar TP'd over here, maybe they would have gotten it, but it still would have been really close. That was silly. That was silly. I would have just, if I was on their team, gone mid and taken the mid turret. And dove the Vel'Koz if we had to. And then they waste another TP to go top. Okay, that's weird. Dragon's not important. At this point, you've already given so many away, and Air Dragon's not going to be a big factor. You need to be focusing more on Baron. Not important. Wrong side of the map. Yeah, and this is what happens. You didn't have any setup over here. You started putting setup on an unimportant objective, and you just take a bad fight because of it. There's no way this is going to turn out well. You didn't know where any of their people on their team were. Okay, you knew where some of them were. You knew where the Gnar was, which means that, okay, yeah, as Braum, you don't go and try and 1v1 the Gnar. Thresh comes in, and now you're kind of flanked, because the Gnar is going to fight you if you walk this way. You can't turn around because the Thresh is here. You can't really go in on the Thresh because the Morgana is here. And the Jhin, which has his ult. So yeah, you're in a really bad spot. There was no reason to try and be setting up for this objective. That was actually good mechanics. Yeah, I'm gonna try and praise you a bit more because I've been ragging on you this whole time. I would have flashed like that too. I don't know how this ended well. Y'all should have been fucked there. What happened? Did you chain CC the shit out of them? Okay, so Jhin misses his stuff. Oh, and then Gnar gets stunned. And then Shyvana seems to be knocked up for a long time. Morgana's already ulted. Where did Morgana ult? Last fight? It's on off cooldown? Maybe that's it. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, well, it was still not a fight that you wanted. It ended up better than it should have been, but there was no reason to take that fight like that. And you're gonna have a tough time getting something out of it, I think. Okay, never mind. That was a really good job forcing the Morgana off of it. You couldn't just let her wave clear. Getting some breadcrumb wards, maybe? Yep, good. There, you shouldn't really be trying to do that right now. Hmm. If I was them, I would have started Baron. They did start Baron, but they started it without the Jhin because the Jhin was for some reason going mid. Yeah. And this fight happened because the Ashe was basically down here, and you guys stayed a little bit too long with this. Uh, I don't think that there was too much you guys could have done because you decided to trade the inhib for it, basically. Um, but they really should be able to clean this up. Ooh, unlucky. There's no way he's gonna kill you with that. What? That's a good TP. It's honestly probably a game-changing TP. Yeah, game-deciding TP right there. She just got 3. This wave's gonna get a turret. You don't need to... Yeah, I wouldn't be looking for this. Even though he's low, he's gonna go Mega. Yeah. Okay, you guys have a 5k lead. 1v1ing again. You don't need to be doing this. Yeah, you don't need to be doing that. Okay. Man. Okay. Okay. Jump? Yeah. I would have ulted the Shyvana away, actually, instead of the kill with it. Okay. Man, this Ashe is doing a really good job, actually. With the death timers, I wouldn't even be worried about this. You could end here with just a super. Okay. So, to highlight what I think one more time, you really need to worry more, Tristana, about your positioning. Braum, in lane specifically, your positioning. Early on, you're standing way too far away from your Tristana. You give them a window to trade. That's not good. Wards, you guys waste a lot of your resources, especially if you know where you're going to ward a little bit later. Like this ward would have been fine if it was the only one that you put down, because it would have caught the same thing that this ward would have caught. But the ward over here is better. So if you're going to do this if you're going to do this one, then just communicate it, because the ward that you put on Dragon is now worthless. This ward needs to be moved over. You need to worry a lot more about your rotations. You had one good rotation early game where you came mid, but it seems like you have this magnet towards mid lane. That's not good. And I ranted on that enough, so I'm done with it. But be aware of it. Braum, you're not paying enough attention to the minimap. You come bottom that one time whenever you should have rotated mid with the Tristana. There was no reason for you to be bottom. You need to worry a lot more about like your targeting choice. In these little skirmishes, it can mean the difference. Braum, your positioning, I would have been trying to kite back. Tristana, I would have been trying to pop the stun. And over here, I would have been turning onto the Jhin. Uh, for your warding, Braum, you had a couple windows where you were around Baron, but you did not put wards on it. And you had wards, and you knew your wards were going to die, so you should have tried to do that. Your mechanics are both kind of pretty fine. Uh, just like targeting and positioning, which aren't really mechanics. Your warding, as I said, needs work. What else? Yeah, showing up to fights. Showing up to fights, right? That's another thing. The fight that you tried to show up to here, your curiosity killed you whenever you were not thinking about what they were going to get after it. They couldn't take red because red was gone. They couldn't take raptors because raptors was gone. The only thing was really the kills on you, and you could have just been under your turret, and that would have been fine. But you went hunting, and this curiosity killed you. You don't want to do that, and you don't need to do that. Um, Objective choice. You guys come down to Dragon in that one fight that you somehow miraculously turned when you should have been looking more towards Baron. This fight, I still don't really know how you guys turned it so well, so props to you. But I think that this was way too bad of a start of a fight. It should not have ended well. Uh, hmm. I think that that's it. Rewatch the whole thing if you want other highlights.